Hello.
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 You all right?
I'm good. You all right?
Yes, I'm all right, thank you.
Sorted your washing out?
No, actually, because I was going to peg it out and then I thought, one, I can't be bothered. Two, looks really, really windy. I say looks really windy. It is really windy outside. And I thought, if I peg it out, I'm going to sit here recording, watching it fly out all over the place.
Watching it fly into your neighbour's house.
Absolutely. And then being like, oh, fuck.
Oh, I'm going to have to go and get that now.
Yeah. So I thought, no, I'll just wait.
And it also fits in with the fact that you can't be bothered because
Well,
then
that's it. You know when
you've
you
got
can't
a
be bothered
perfectly good excuse.
and you try and find excuses. You're like, oh no, it's a bit windy. It's too windy outside.
No, there's a breeze. No.
Yeah. It'll never dry in this wind.
Yeah, yeah. It'll just be a waste of time if I put it out there now. It's just giving myself another job because then I'll
Well,
have to
that's
go
it.
to the neighbours and then I'll have to rewash it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So no, I didn't peg it out. I put it in the basket and I thought
that'll
that
do.
can go in the tumble dryer later.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
Well, welcome to episode 127.
Oh, they're racking up, aren't
They
they?
are racking up all over
They're
the place.
really racking up.
And I have to say, at no point did I have plans to make this into a two-parter. And I pretty much wrote the story. And then I thought, I'm so intrigued by this. Like the whole story is so intriguing and perplexing and baffling. Um, so I couldn't help myself. I had to continue my research, and I thought, you know, it will get the story better known in my mind. I might pick up a few tidbits here and there. Oh my God, I unraveled this whole ball of shit. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I've been away for work for the last like week. I've got 2 days off, which is today and tomorrow, and then I'm away working again. So whilst away, I was doing more research, uncovering all this stuff, and I thought, right, when I get back to the hotel tonight, I'll add that in. So I did that. So I started kind of rewriting a lot of it, and then I started finding bits that I thought, oh, I thought that was like fact that that's what had happened with this tiny bit of the story, but now it's looking like maybe it's not, so then I started diving into that and then uncovering. So honestly, this story has built and built and built. It is absolutely going to need a discussion, and the discussion between you and I is probably going to be very lengthy.
Wow.
So I'll tell you that now.
All right.
um yeah, so I've literally been rewriting and rewriting this story over and over, and yeah, it's going to be an absolute corker.
Well, you've hyped it up now.
I have.
So I'm
Oh, you
excited.
you will not be disappointed.
All right.
Honestly, it's
Great.
it's a it's a great story. I mean, obviously, it's a murder story, so
Yeah.
it's sad that, and it's tragic how this has all played out. But yeah, it's for those of us, which I'm guessing is everyone listening, that are fans of true crime. You are going to enjoy this one. There'll be some of you that will go, oh my God, I absolutely know this. And there'll be a lot of people like both me and you that were like, never heard of it. And
All
it's
right.
a travesty.
All right
But
then. Should we?
yeah, random blams, go.
I have got random lamps. Thank you very much.
Me too.
I have got a few stored in my arsenal actually because I'm going to reel off two right now.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
only
Hang on,
because,
are we being professional right now?
yeah,
Oh my
I'm
God, it's
prepared.
finally happened.
On episode 127. You heard it. No,
Yeah.
but you know, when you start looking at things on Facebook, and then the more you look at it, the more those type of things come up,
Hmm.
because obviously everybody's watching us. So I saw that, you know, when people say, oh, they're the spitting image of so and so.
Yeah.
Well, that person's the spitting image of this person or whatever.
Yeah.
The word isn't spitting image. The word originally was spit and image.
Oh,
They're the spit and image of so and so. But over time, Chinese whispers, it's become a spitting image.
wow.
Oh,
I
I know,
didn't.
that blew my mind.
Yeah, because I've never actually thought about why spitting image.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Tell
And there's
us.
another one. So then I found out that there was another one that's happened to, another word. And the word is nickname.
Yeah.
And
Nickname.
the original word was eke name, EKE. And EKE means addition.
Oh,
So
okay.
it used to be eke name, but it became nickname over people mishearing it and things like that.
Yeah.
Over time, it became nickname because, again, what does that
Wow.
actually mean when you say nickname?
Yeah, we never stop and question. Well, I mean, we do,
No.
but we don't, as a rule, we don't question these things that we do and say on a daily basis.
Well, my mum used to say, your bedroom looks like a bombs it. And I thought the word was bombs it. But it's not, is it? As only as an adult, I realised she said it looks like a bomb has hit it.
Your room looks like a bomb has gone off.
Yeah. Your
Yeah.
room, but because we're obviously common as mug,
Yep.
you looks like a bomb's it in here.
And you, so
And I
whenever
thought,
you saw something like messy, you'd think that looks like a bombs, is
bomb's
it?
it.
Bombs
Yeah,
it.
and I'd be like, what's a bomb's it? I
Bombs
didn't even
it.
know what a bomb's it was, but I never questioned it. I was like, oh gosh, a bomb's it in here, isn't it?
It's a bombs it, isn't it?
You don't question it. But I
No,
realise now that it was bomb has hit it.
a bomb has hit it in here. What? Oh, well, that was great.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it is because yeah, we never really think about these things. Um, this is a blam that pertains to the story. I haven't put this detail in the story. I had put it in there, but then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it as a random blam. So, did you know that in areas where people get mugged a lot, that certain people and the victim in our story today did exactly this? So they have two wallets and they will have what they call, or what some people call, a mugging wallet, and then their actual wallet. So
Wow.
they get another wallet, like they'll put their actual proper wallet, like in their bag, like right down the bottom of their bag or zipped up somewhere or on their inside pocket. And then they'll have a separate wallet
A
that's got
decoy wallet.
a decoy wallet that they'll have like, you know, minimal cash in, maybe like an old bank card or something like that to make it look like an actual used wallet. And if they get mugged, they can then hand over this mugging wallet that they're sort of happy to leave, and keep their actual wallet with all their current bank cards and all their proper
Smart man.
money. That's such a smart idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really smart idea. So yeah, if you live in an area where you think, oh God, what if I get mugged?
Get
Make
yourself a mugging
yourself
wallet.
a mugging wallet, yeah, and just put like a couple of quid in it or a couple of dollars in it. And yeah, if you get mugged, you can be like, here, take it.
Please don't take my wallet.
No, not my wallet. These are the only $3 I have in my life. Oh. Yeah, and then you can just hand it over.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great idea. So there you go.
All right
Random
then.
clams.
Done.
Done. Right, before we episode, I'm just going to say one thing. This story is the most perplexing story that I have ever covered on the pod.
Stop it.
I shit you not.
All right.
It is a fucking whopper because
Right.
it's just so bizarre. There's no other word for it. Yes, it's perplexing, but it's fucking weird. It's really bizarre. This episode is dedicated to Courtney because Courtney wrote to us and said, I'd love to know what you guys think about this story. So, Courtney, we know you're listening. This is for you, and this is the story of Robert Wone. Morning.
Morning.
Morning, morning.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one.
You should be. It's a banger of a fucking story. So the death of Robert Wone on August 2nd, 2006 remains one of Washington, D.C.'s most perplexing unsolved cases. And I use the word unsolved because this is, to use the word controversial, it doesn't cut it. It's like the whole world knows who did it. Even the judge at the trial knows who did it, but it still remains unsolved. It's just mind-blowing. So Robert Wone was a respected attorney and a civic leader. Wone was found fatally stabbed in a friend's home under circumstances that have baffled investigators and the public alike. So Robert was 32 years old. And as I said, he was an attorney. And he was super successful at it too. He was at the top of his class when he graduated. He was offered many high positions at big law firms. And after working at some of these law firms, he accepted a position at the Radio Free Asia as the general counsel. In his personal life, he was super successful too. He had an abundance of friends. His social life was great. He was not just well liked, he was loved by many, many people. He was married to Catherine Yu, and she's in all the research. I've just known her as, or read about her as Kath. So that's how I shall refer to her. And Kath was the love of his life. Like, they had a great marriage. They'd been married, I believe, they'd been together for about 4 years. They were always together. They travelled to work together. They travelled home together. Many of their close friends reported Robert and Kath, and they said they were mad in love. Robert was known for his integrity and his community involvement. He was the best man at one of him and Kath's best friends' weddings. And I've watched some of the footage from the wedding, and Robert is just smiling and laughing the whole time. Everyone that you can see that's near him is smiling and laughing, and people are putting their arms around him and cuddling. Like, he was such a nice guy. You can see him giving the best man speech and everyone's laughing, and he's got this massive smile on his face. And his friends described him as really good to talk to. That was a quote from many of his good friends. And the word that seems to come up a lot when I've read about Robert is kind. everyone says he was just such a kind person. So on August the 2nd, 2006, Robert had planned to stay overnight at the DuPont Circle home of one of his best friends. And this was a guy that he went to college with, and they were besties. And his name is Joseph Price. It wasn't usual practice for Robert to stay away from Kath, but he had work in the Washington area late that night and early the following morning. So he didn't want to get home really late, wake up Kath, and he thought, oh, and then I'm going to have to get up even earlier tomorrow morning to be back here. Traffic's a nightmare, blah, blah, blah. So that was his sort of thinking. If he'd finished work, gone home, and then gone back to the same spot the following morning, it would have added on another 2 hours of travel and all that. So I've likened it to us, Sarah. So imagine that we had to work really late, like near 10 o'clock at night in London. And then the following morning, we had work in the same place in London really early.
There's no point coming back, is there?
There's just no point. It's just a waste of time. So for us, you know, we would stay up there. For Robert, he had a couple of friends that lived right in Washington, so he thought that makes more sense. So he'd actually reached out to two friends, and this was about maybe a fortnight prior to this day. He reached out to Joe, who I just mentioned, his college mate and his bestie, and another female friend, and said, listen, I've got work really late and then really early the next morning. Would it be possible for me to crash at yours for the night? All I need is a shower and a bed. That's it. And it just so happened that it was Joe that replied first and said, absolutely, Robert, stay with us. More than welcome. So unfortunately for Robert, it was planned that he would stay the night with Joe. So that morning, Robert and Kath got up, got ready, and they travelled to work together as usual. They jumped off the train at DuPont Circle, which is a main station. They had a cuddle and a kiss and said, you know, hope you have a good day. See you tomorrow after work. But unbeknownst to the pair, this would be the last time that Kath would see Robert alive. Robert had a busy day. He has a late meeting with the night crew at Radio Free Asia, and this was due to be around 9:40 p.m. So he knew that it was going to be a long day, because he thought, well, if the meeting's not going to be until like 9:30, 20 to 10, it's going to be late. Robert was a hard worker, so he didn't mind. He was just like, I'm just going to get it done, stay over at Joe's, get work done the next day, and then go home. At 9:30 p.m, he phoned Kath and he said, I miss you. I'm just about to go into my meeting. Then I'm going to head to Joe's. Love you lots. I'll call you in the morning, that kind of thing. And he also said to her, I don't want to wake you up because I'm going to be getting back to Joe's quite late. I won't wake you up, but I'll pop you an email. And she's like, fine, no problem. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Hope the meeting goes all right. Blah, blah, blah. Love you lots. Night, night. That was that. Robert heads into his meeting, had his meeting, and then he was all done for the day. He then jumped in a cab and headed over to Joe's place. From Robert's phone records, we know that he called Joe at 10:25 p.m. and we can only assume that this was, hey, buddy, I'm all done at work. My meeting's finished now. I'm on my way. I'm in the cab. I'm on my way to you now. That kind of thing. The cab driver that drove Robert to Joe's place later confirmed that he did indeed drop Robert off at Joe's at precisely 10:30 p.m. So maybe everyone make a note. Robert gets to Joe's place at 10:30 p.m. So Joe's place was on Swan Street, and this residence was occupied by Joe Price, who is Robert's college friend, Victor Zaborski, who is Joe's domestic partner, and Dylan Ward. It gets a little bit messy when you start talking about who everyone is, but you've got Joe and Victor,
who was Victor again?
Joe's husband.
Partner. Okay,
yeah, his husband. Yeah. And then you've got Dylan Ward, who stays in one of the other bedrooms, and he was like a really close friend of Joe and Victor's, and then they kind of entered into a polyamorous relationship. However, from what I've found out is when I say polyamorous relationship, it seemed to me more like Joe and Dylan were kind of more into this relationship. So Joe and Dylan kind of had their own relationship going on. Several times, all three of them would have some kind of relationship outside of the three of them. But essentially, that's kind of what their household looked like. Joe kind of called it their family. So he would say, like, this is the three of us. We're a family. But it very much seemed like Joe was kind of the big controller guy, you know, and Victor was like in love with Joe. So he was quite I wouldn't say
went along
submissive,
with
but yeah, he kind of just did what Joe wanted, and that was that. Joe and Dylan had their kind of relationship, and it seems like Joe and Dylan were probably a little bit more. This is the vibe I get anyway. They were kind of more into they were into BDSM. But Joe and Dylan had this relationship where, although Joe was very much a controller over the household and what was done and what went on in the house and that kind of thing, Joe was the submissive and Dylan was the dom. And I've heard that in many, many, many sources. So I think, yeah, that makes sense. So the trio lived in a 3-story townhouse in a quiet upscale neighborhood. And that doesn't cut it. It was a nice, nice house. This was like $1 million house. And they were, in all these sources, they were calling them row houses. And the only thing that I could liken it to our UK listeners was like a terraced house. So imagine a townhouse, like a 3-story townhouse, although technically 4-story because it had a basement where they had like a lodger.
Oh, okay.
And she was actually away. She wasn't in the property when all this happened. She had a friend staying, but I haven't included all the details on that. I am aware of it. But I haven't included it because, to be honest, I didn't think it was relevant. Yeah. She didn't see anything. She didn't hear anything. So, yeah. So if you imagine this like 3-story townhouse, but then all the other 3-story townhouses down this, due to its prime location, It was, like I said, it was like $1 million house. It's in the middle of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., for those of you that don't know, is the capital of the United States. DuPont Circle is the area where I said Kath and Robert had got off the train. It's this big main station. DuPont Circle, I've looked on the maps, it's right near the White House. Oh. So it's like prime location. Anyway, Robert was good friends with all three of these guys. They had all attended his wedding to Kath, and all three of them had thrown Robert his 30th birthday party. And there's photos from Robert's 30th birthday party that shows all three men standing round him, holding a cake, and Robert's blowing out the candles. And it just, now, knowing what I know now, it makes me a little bit sick. And it also freaks me out a little bit. So after we've had part 1 and part 2 of this episode, I urge you all, we'll post it, but I urge you all to please look at this photo when you finish these 2 episodes. Just look at this photo, because I couldn't stop looking at it, because it made me feel a funny way when I looked at it, and I'd be interested to know if it does the same for you guys. So 10:30 p.m, Robert arrives at the Swan Street home. According to testimony from Joe and Dylan, this is what happened next, although we don't know for certain. Shortly after Robert arrives, he chats with Joe and Dylan, has a glass of water, and they're sort of standing in the kitchen, having a bit of a chat. Victor had been working away, and this was something that they all knew about. He knew Robert was coming over to stay the night because, like I said, this has been arranged 2 weeks prior. But he said, well, I'm going to be working away, so I might not see him. However, Victor had got home earlier than expected. He wasn't supposed to be at the house at all that night, but he'd got home earlier than expected, and he said, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm going to go up to bed, I'm going to bed early. So when Robert got there, Victor was already upstairs in bed. Joe, Dylan, Robert, they're standing in the kitchen having a bit of a natter, and it was just, they knew it wasn't going to be a social meetup. They knew that Robert was only there because he had to get up for work early the next day. It was just how have you been? How's Kath? How's work? That kind of vibe. Then they showed him to the guest room, which is on the middle floor, on a pull-out bed. Robert says he's going to grab a quick shower and then get his head down. And everyone goes off to bed. I'll tell you about the layout of the house briefly. So first floor, you go up these little steps through the front door. On that floor, you've got like the kitchen, the lounge, the door that goes out to the back garden. Middle floor, as you come up the stairs, you've got Dylan's room directly ahead of you. And then you kind of do like a 180 on yourself down the corridor, like past the stairwell. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you've got the guest room, which is where Robert was. And then if you kind of do another 180, you've got another flight of stairs that goes up, and up there was Joe and Victor's bedroom. So just so you got that in your mind, but we'll talk about that in the discussion, I'm sure. All the men confirmed that they headed to bed at 11 p.m. This is something to note. So yep. Everyone went to bed at 11 p.m. At 11:08, Robert sent his final email to Kath. This next bit, definitely worth keeping a note of. Between 11 p.m. and 11:30, the older couple who lived next door reported hearing a scream while they were watching TV. They remembered that it was between 11 and 11:30 because they were watching the news, and the news is only on between 11 and 11:30. And they always made a habit of sitting together and watching the news. Then they would head to bed. So just note, these houses being connected the way they were amazing at carrying sounds. Like, it's pretty much like living in a block of flats. Like, you get used to hearing certain noises. Also, on that note, I don't know if it was the same for these properties, but I've heard from several different places that row houses in particular, because they're all like solid wood floors, in the lease, it is said that you have to put some kind of rug down. Otherwise, it's just to eliminate noise complaints and things like that. I don't know if that was the same for the Swan Street house. I don't know if that was in the lease. However, they didn't have like rugs and carpet and things like that. It was all hardwood floors, all very noisy. But yeah, so these houses were great at carrying sound. They said when they heard the scream, it wasn't like the sort of thing where you think, oh my God, what the fuck, call the police. It wasn't that kind of thing. They heard it and then they were like, what was that? And I can absolutely, because there's a lot of people saying, oh, if you heard a scream, why didn't you call the police then? Something could have been done. For me, that's bullshit, because I literally went outside to my car on the drive the other day to get something out, and I heard a really loud, shrill scream. And it was like a scream, it was done, over, gone. And I thought, what was that? Listened, nothing. So I thought, that was weird. And I came back indoors.
Yeah, and you convince yourself that you haven't heard what you thought you heard.
Well, yeah, and it's like,
wasn't a scream.
It's kind of like over and happened before you've actually registered it, almost. So I completely get that. There is absolutely no way that if every person that heard a scream called the police, I mean, this whole planet would just go to shit, because people scream all the time for different reasons. And that's exactly how this couple felt. They were like, look, we live in the middle of Washington, D.C. We hear gunshots, we hear screams, we hear people running down the street naked and drunk and high on drugs and all sorts. It's just
background noise.
Yeah, it's just not something that we particularly thought, oh my God. Note the time, at 11:49 p.m, just 79 minutes after Robert arrived at the house, Victor, Joe's partner, called 911, reporting that someone had been stabbed by an intruder.
Okay.
The 911 dispatcher asked if they need fire, police, or ambulance. Victor only asked for an ambulance. You might want to note that. If you thought that you had an intruder, why would you not ask for the police? This is the question that kept flying through my mind. He is scared. They ask him if the intruder is still in the house, and he says, I don't know. I don't know. Why would you not ask for the police? Just seems bizarre. Also, during the call, Victor says that he is scared to go downstairs because of the intruder.
How did he know someone was stabbed?
Oh, I'll get to that.
All right.
I have the 911 call. It's just about 5-6 minutes long. But I think it's important for you all to hear it. I've cleaned it up as much as I can. But Yeah, it's some of it is difficult to hear, but you can very clearly hear in certain parts of it, you can very clearly hear that Victor is like mumbling things to someone else. One of the things that I'll tell you about straight away, just so you're not confused, the dispatcher keeps calling Victor ma'am because she mistakes his voice for that of a ma'am. So she's constantly saying, "Calm down, ma'am. Calm down, ma'am." He just didn't correct her. So that's all it is, just in case anyone's confused. And the other thing that I would like you to listen out for is Victor goes from being very panicked and he's crying. He's, oh, I don't know what's happened. Someone's been stabbed, blah, blah, blah. He's very upset. He's clearly distressed. But also there's parts of it where he suddenly goes from being distressed to very calm, and he's like, what time is it? Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, no, he's doing that. Oh, sorry, excuse me. What did you say again? And he seems very calm and very coherent. And then all of a sudden he'll go back up and he'll be crying and I don't know what's to do and blah blah blah. So I'd like you to be aware of that. So I am just going to grab the file and then I am going to play it for you.
NBC Emergency 911 Operator 6752. Do you need police, fire, or ambulance? What do you need an ambulance? What's wrong, man? We had someone leave us in our house, evidently, and they stabbed somebody. Okay, somebody's inside the house now? I don't know. We heard. Are they bleeding? You see someone bleeding? Someone is bleeding in our house. Okay, where's they bleeding from? I think in the stomach. Your stomach, be cautious. Calm down for me. I'm assisting help, okay? Female or male? It's a male. He's a friend of ours. He's spending the night with us. Okay, and who was the person that stabbed him? Do you know? Is he conscious? We need an ambulance. Ma'am, he's not conscious. He's not conscious at all? No. We need someone right now. Is he breathing? Listen to me. Calm down. I want to help you, okay? Is he breathing? I'm upstairs, and she's downstairs. I don't know. Okay, who's upstairs with him? My partner is downstairs with me right now. Don't need to go upstairs. Call 50 minutes. It's security. Okay, who's the person? Okay, I'm sending paramedics and the police. Okay, who's the person that stabbed him? I don't know. I think it's somebody living in the house. We heard the chimes of doors. It is 15, man, calm down. 1509 Swan Street, Northwest. Am I correct? Yes. The person that said that, she's still in the home? I don't know. No, we got help around, okay? Pardon me? We have help around. Thank you. They are out to you now. I'm saying the police and the paramedics, okay, to assist. Okay, what I need you to do is go downstairs, okay? The place wherever he was stabbed at, I need you to get a dry cloth, okay? And just apply pressure to that area. If he was wherever he was stabbed at on his body, I need you to take a towel downstairs while you're waiting for the paramedics to arrive and just apply pressure. Even if the rag or towel is saturated with blood, just get another towel and put it on top of it. Never lift the first towel off the area. Hold it on. Once it gets filled up with blood, just put another towel on top of that and just apply pressure until the paramedics arrive. Yeah. On the ledge. Yeah. In the heart? It's the nervous. Okay, is he breathing? Breathing. We have help right now, okay? You don't know who it was? No idea, please. Don't fight, don't touch. Okay, is he breathing? Breathing. Okay, we have help and roll, ma'am, okay? We do have help and roll. Okay, just go down there and try to tell your husband or your other half to just try to keep them calm and talk to them. Okay. Just keep them calm and talk to them until someone gets there. And at the same time, get a dry cloth and just hold it right there in the area. My just holding it. Okay, holding it on it. Okay, and once it gets saturated with blood, tell them get another one. Go get another towel so you can put it on top of that one once it gets filled up with blood. And we need to apply pressure on that area. Just applying pressure, right? Okay, just hold it there until the paramedics get there. They should be putting up any moment if they're already en route to your location. You don't know who did this. We have no idea who did this. Is the door open so they can get in? We don't know how they got in. Okay, well, I'm asking you now. Is the door open so the paramedics can get in once they get here? What? Sorry. What were you saying? Is the door open so they can get in? Is the door open so the paramedics can get in the house? I'm gonna go down. Is this a private home or apartment? It's a home. It's a home. That's 1309 Swan Street Northwest. The person had one of my knives. The person that said to ran out the door with a knife? I think. Did anybody get any type of description of the person that came in the house? No idea. We have no description. We heard the chime, and we heard the scream from our tent. Okay. And so we came running downstairs. We ran in. So you both was upstairs and your friend was downstairs. Yeah. You heard the door open and then you heard the scream. I didn't hear the door open until after the scream, and then we ran down the stairs and we heard we have an alarm, and so the chime went off. Okay. It's the indoor sleep. We really need the indoor. Okay, they're wrong there, man. Go to the door. They should be pulling up any moment. Okay. I'm afraid to go down. The person who's downstairs was the person that reported it. No, we're on the second floor. Okay, so somebody need to go to just open the door for the paramedics. We're not sure if that person's still at home or not. I have no idea. Okay, we have paramedics around, okay? What time is it? What time is it at the moment? Yeah. 23:54. It's 11:54, man. 54. Yes. I mean, I'll stand in line with you. I will stand in line till somebody gets here, okay? I won't hang up. We need them right now. I'm not hanging up, but we need help now. Okay, they en route, man. They are en route. Let me know when you hear the paramedic. Can you look out the window and see if you have them coming? I'm looking out the window and I see nothing. I see nobody. Okay, it seems like forever, but they are en route, man. They're coming. Here they are. They're there. You're going downstairs. Okay. I'll stand around with you till you open the door for the paramedics, okay? But we're in Florida staff. We're on our second floor. Dan? It's really an emergency. Amazing lady. He's sorry. Man, it's gonna be okay.
You'll have heard in that call that the dispatcher says for someone to put a compress on the wound and press down. And Victor says, my partner is doing that. He's already doing that. And she says, don't lift the other one off. When it gets soaked through, get another one, put it on top, press it down. So when it gets soaked through with blood, just use another one. Just keep them coming until they get soaked through, put another one on. Victor is referring to Joe being with him. You should also note that
he says we're upstairs.
Yeah. And but he never actually says Robert's name. He never calls him by name. He says someone's been stabbed. He said it's a man, it's a male. He says our friend. He was staying the night with us, blah blah blah. Not at any point. I mean, it might just be that it's not, there's nothing weird to that. It's just something that happened. But
Well, I don't know the
I
rest
think
of the story, so I'm not quite as skeptical as you are. You're coming at it, I think, from quite a biased point of view
I
because
can't
you know the
help
rest of the
it.
story.
I mean, I will bring up. Yeah, we'll discuss it at the end. But
yeah, I've got some questions regarding that 911 call, but
okay.
I do think that you're being too skeptical and too analytical at the moment. But that's because you know what you know and I don't. But at the moment, I don't feel like there was much wrong with that call.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there's lots to discuss, but yeah, make a note of it.
Yeah, I've got it.
And yeah, we'll discuss that. But the most prominent part to that call will be the bit about the compressing.
Right.
He says that they awoke to the chimes, and he's saying, like, so when their door would be opened, it makes a chime sound.
Set the alarm off.
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily, because they said that their alarm wasn't actually set.
Oh, I see.
But when it's not set, even when the door's opened, it makes this chime noise. So that's what he's referring to. Later, Joe says that they woke because they heard a scream, not necessarily because they heard the door chimes. He says that we did hear the door chimes, but that's not what woke him up. Victor also says in that call, which you may or may not have heard, is that he says the intruder took one of our knives. And the dispatcher says they ran out the door with one of your knives, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they took one of our knives." And you got to bear in mind, at this point, they hadn't gone downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
They had gone as far as Robert's room, the guest room, which is on the middle floor, and that's it. So I do question how he knows they took one of their knives. Unless he means, because there was I'm going to go into it, but there was a knife found in the room with Robert that was one of theirs. So I don't know whether he's saying it's that they did it with one of our knives. But anyway, so paramedics arrived within minutes. They arrived at 11:54, which is 5 minutes after Victor first places the 911 call at 11:49. One of the EMTs was a man called Jeff Baker, and he said that when he arrived on scene, Victor was on his phone standing on the doorstep of the house, and he was wearing a white dressing gown. Jeff said that Victor didn't answer any questions that Jeff was asking. He said that, in Jeff's words, Victor was unresponsive. He simply said, "Stabbing, second floor." And Jeff felt that this was weird because he said normally people are absolutely frantic. Victor was kind of hysterical when the paramedics got there, because he can still be heard on the phone, sort of just all he's doing is crying, just crying. But it was minutes away from him being very calm on the phone and saying, "I'm literally looking down the road and there's no one here."
What's the time, please?
Yeah. What was the time? Have I missed Big Brother? Do you know what I mean? It was just, but in fairness to Victor, I've never had to make a call where one of my friends has been stabbed in my own house. I don't know if it could be shock. He could
Well,
be
that's why
kind
I
of going
said
in and out.
it, because I've listened to other, obviously, 911 calls, and a lot of people are the same, and they're very hysterical. Someone's been stabbed, someone's been stabbed. And then they're like, when are they getting here? This is where we live.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they'll be hysterical again. And that's not
Yep.
uncommon.
Yep. No, I'm willing to be open to that because I don't know how I would react. Jeff also said that he found it very bizarre that Victor gave no eye contact at all. He kept his eyes shut, in fact. So he had his eyes shut and he just gestured upstairs. It's upstairs. Stabbing, second floor. Jeff heads upstairs and it's about to get a whole lot weirder. So Jeff got to the top of the first flight of stairs and there he saw Dylan. And Dylan was standing in the doorway of his own bedroom, which is right at the top of the stairs. And he was also wearing a white dressing gown. Jeff, out of habit, says to him, "What's going on?" Dylan didn't say a word. He's not showing any distress. Anyway, I'm not going to say he wasn't distressed. He showed no distress whatsoever. It was just like he was almost like he was sleepwalking. He just stood there. And Jeff said, what's going on? Dylan didn't say a word. He didn't answer Jeff's question, nothing. He just turns round, walks back into his bedroom, shuts his bedroom door. Like nothing. Jeff was like, what the fuck's going on? Jeff turned, like I said, a 180 and kind of looked down the corridor. And there he sees another bedroom with the bedroom door open. So he's like, all right, well, I'll go down there. So he goes down there and he can see Joe sitting on the edge of the bed in his underwear. Robert is laying on the bed. But please note, this is within minutes of Victor saying that his partner is holding a compress on Robert's wounds. Joe isn't. There's no blood-soaked towel on Robert, nothing like that. So Joe is just sitting there. Robert is laying completely straight on the bed with both his arms just straight down by his side. Joe's not panicking. He's not helping. He's not doing anything. He's not stressed. He's not like, oh, thank God you're here. Quick, help him. Nothing like that. He sits there, doesn't say a word. Jeff says to him, what's happening? And Joe replies, I heard a scream. That's it. That's all he said. I heard a scream. Jeff later said that he actually walked the long way to get to Robert. He actually walked all the way round the bed. So completely on the opposite side to Joe, because he said, I didn't want to have my back to him. He said that Joe made him feel really uneasy. Robert was found laying on his back with 3 stab wounds, one in the center of his chest and 2 very high up on his abdomen. The EMT would later report that the atmosphere in the house was eerie. And Jeff said, and this is a direct quote, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. End quote. Joe got up slowly and just kind of wandered to the back of the room and just stood there looking. The EMTs got to check in on Robert. The first thing that went through their mind was, where the hell is all the blood? And to say that there was an unusual lack of blood, it just doesn't come anywhere close. There was no blood. None. EMT said it was very inconsistent with the severity of the wounds. One of the stab wounds was so large that you could put a whole finger into it. It was very open. And this kind of stab wound should always have blood pouring out of it. It
The
would be
stomach bleeds.
Yeah, it would be like flooding out of there. But they were really put off guard because they said there was just no blood. None. He had a t-shirt on, a light grey t-shirt, Robert, and you could see 3 very clear like rips in his t-shirt. But it wasn't
Soaked in blood.
No, it wasn't. There was just no blood. Experts have reported that when they attend a scene of a stabbing, the blood is everywhere. It flows out of every puncture wound, flicks off the knife. It's usually spread around because there's been some sort of struggle. But here, nothing. Another perplexing thing that the EMTs noticed was how Robert was laying. So the bed was still freshly made. There was no, like, none of the bed was messed up at all. Even the sheets were still, like when there's one person getting in bed and the corner is folded back. It was like that, but Robert was laying on top of it. The pillow was crisp and exactly where it should be placed, with one indentation on it, which was where Robert's head was. Other than that, it could have been a show bed. Like it was pristine, this bed. And they said, and this is directly from the EMTs, they said their observation of it was it looked like Robert had been stabbed, showered, and then laid neatly on the bed. There was indeed a towel with blood on it, but it had a smear of blood on it. It wasn't blood soaked, and it looked like it had kind of, I don't know, had something that was bloody against it, rather than it being
like
plunged
a transfer.
like rather than actually being stabbed into a body. It's certainly like the towel definitely wasn't soaked in blood, and I'll send you a picture of the towel and the knife. The EMTs noted that on arrival they found no pulse and that Robert was completely unresponsive. None of Robert's wounds were bleeding, so they said from that it would seem that his heart had stopped and he was dead. And this is where it gets slightly more confusing, because they said it looked like Robert had been, or it seemed like Robert had been dead for, quote, some time. And this is my words, not theirs now. The vibe that I got from several different sources was that Robert had been probably dead for like maybe sort of 20-30 minutes, rather than he's just passed away.
Right.
It continues to get slightly more confusing, in as much as they said the EMTs found like a small, I couldn't find the technical term for it, but it was like a small electronic blip when they were checking for signs of life. So obviously they exhaust every opportunity they can when they're trying to save someone's life. So there was something that came up in some kind of test that they said, like, not necessarily a heartbeat, but like, I know the term I'm looking for. I just can't think of it. Like some sort of electronic pulse or something that showed up, and they thought, maybe. So they said, we'll take him to the hospital and see what we can do, if there's any hope at all. So that's what they did, and they took him to the hospital. But unfortunately, Robert was pronounced dead at the hospital. So the police arrived at the house shortly after the paramedics got there. They said that the house was very, very neat and tidy, no obvious signs of an intruder. They went upstairs. The first bedroom you came to was Dylan's, as I've said. Then you do a 180, go down the corridor, then you come to the guest room where Robert was. If you did another 180, another flight of stairs, this leads to Joe and Victor's room. So just a reminder on where everything is. The police said that this was a very old house. These row houses were very old, and they said there was hardwood floors throughout, on the stairs, on the floors, everything. And they said the stairs in particular, very creaky, very noisy. Nothing in the house had been taken. Nothing. Not a single thing. There was cash laying out, not taken. There was laptops, things like that. Nothing had been taken. They asked the men, are you aware of anything that's been taken? Anything obvious, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, straight away. Nope, nothing's been taken. Police were like, okay. Also, nothing of Robert's was taken. So Robert's clothes were folded neatly and put in a little pile on the dresser in the guest room. It was like at the foot of the bed. His wallets, notice I said wallets. His wallets were there, his watch, his money. They were all placed nice and neatly next to his clothes. And also, when they examined Robert, they found that he had his night mouthguard in. And Kath testified that this would always be the last thing that Robert would do before he went to sleep. So that in itself says that Robert was ready to sleep. He'd sent his email, he'd done this, he'd done that, he'd had a shower, he was ready to go sleepies. On the nightstand, they found a bloody knife, but not that bloody. The knife did not seem like it had just been stabbed into someone and then pulled out and then stabbed into someone in a separate part and then pulled out, and then another site, stabbed in, pulled out. It didn't even look like it had been stabbed into someone once. The police also, one of their first notes was that there was just lack of blood. They just couldn't understand it. They were unsure about what was going on. It put them on edge a little bit. They said, has Robert been moved? Like, was he originally stabbed like in the bathroom or something and he's been brought out here? And because if he has, you shouldn't have done that. And everyone was like, no, this is where we found him. And they thought, okay. There was 2 small blotches of blood on the bed sheets. And they just 2 of them, one kind of half up the pillow and the other one on the same side was here. And they're about the size of a grapefruit. Just two of those. And this was noted to be where the EMTs had actually rolled Robert. So this was a bit of controversial information that I found, because originally they said there was only 2 bits and it was where it had flooded out of the wound and gone down his body and pulled on the bed. But then I later found out that they said, no, it was actually where we'd rolled him and it had kind of
poured out.
Yeah. Other than that, there was 0 signs of a struggle. None at all. Everything was neat and tidy. Robert had no blood smear anywhere on him. He had no blood on his hands or arms. I think they found a couple of like drips, but they said again that was probably when they were moving him to like examine him and check like that he didn't have other stab wounds and things. But it wasn't like smudged or it hadn't run or anything like that. Robert also didn't have any defensive wounds. Other than the 3 holes on his chest and upper torso, he was perfect. He was freshly showered. Yeah, nothing. No blood smear, nothing. We also know that Robert had not moved at all whilst being stabbed. He had been completely motionless. And when the autopsy was performed, they noted that there was 0 movement from the knife. So the knife had been very, I say carefully, gently, I don't know, meticulously pushed into Robert and then straight back out. Normally,
it's frenzied.
There's
an angle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a slight angle, but that was from where he'd been stabbed, and we'll cover more about the actual stab wounds in a bit. So yeah, so when they did the autopsy, they said that normally with a stabbing, there's like small tears because someone's moving and like fighting and that, and the knife kind of moves around in the stab wound and it tears. There was none of this. And they said from our findings, he didn't move at all. He didn't move his legs, he didn't move his head, he was motionless. Blood expert was called to examine the scene. Seems pretty pointless, but he said the scene was, like he said, quote me on it, it's unbelievable. From his knowledge, this never happens. There should be blood everywhere. And also, he was really certain that the towel was actually used to transfer blood from the towel to the knife, not the other way around. So they said it's like someone dabbed the towel in the blood and then dabbed it on the knife of the blade. Experts said the towel definitely could not have been used as a compress to stem the flow of blood, like Victor had told the dispatch officer that Joe was doing. When they examined the knife, they found that the knife had blood on both the flat sides, but no blood at all was found on the actual sharp cutting edge of the knife. We'll talk about fibre testing. They did indeed find fibres on the knife, but not any fibres from Robert's T-shirt that he was wearing when he was stabbed. So the knife would have gone through Robert's T-shirt and into his body and then come out 3 times. But not a single fibre from his shirt was found on the knife. The knife did, however, have fibres from the white towel. Still staying with the knife, the wounds did not match this particular knife. The wounds were about 4 to 4.5 inches deep, and this knife was 5 inches. And they said it's almost impossible to stab more than once. You might get away with doing it once and stopping. But it's impossible to stab more than once at exactly the same depth without going deeper. And also why? Like, if you're going to like plant a weapon to make it look like the murder weapon enough to put blood on it, why would you stop and make it look like it wasn't the knife? You know, why would you stop an inch away? I would like us to discuss, it only needs to be briefly, at the end, about if you're going in, obviously the motive wasn't theft because nothing was taken. So if you're going in and you're going to go in to kill someone and that is your motive, why would you not take your own weapon? If you know, and if you know that 3 men live there and you're going in to kill a 4th man, you'd want to be armed, wouldn't you? But anyway. So the police do not believe that the knife that was found on the bedside table was the one that was used to kill Robert. So they start looking for the knife that was in Dylan's room on the same floor as Robert. they found a boxed knife set. This set was a big carving knife, a big fork, you know, the big forks that you hold the meat with and then use the carving knife, and then a smaller knife. And this knife was 4.5 inches long. And this knife was missing. How do they know how long this knife was if it was missing? I hear you ask. Well, the box had all the indentations of these 3 items in them. And so they were easily able to look and go, okay, well, that is the same shape, the same size, everything. So that would fit. So this cutlery set was fairly new. And according to testimony from Dylan himself, it was bought for him by his mum for like carving and serving like Thanksgiving dinners, things like that. It was a nice set. Why this wasn't kept in the kitchen with the other kitchenware and the other knives, I don't know. When police asked Dylan where the smaller knife was, he said, oh, my mum, yeah, she did buy me the set, but she really liked that knife, so she kept it.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be biased. So yeah, you heard that right. She bought her son a set and then thought, actually, that part of the set I really like, so I'm gonna keep it. So she kept it. The police said to Dylan's mum, can we have the knife? And she went, oh, I lost it. I don't know where it is. I lost it.
The knife that she loved so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I misplaced it. This doesn't surprise me because yes, personally, I do think she's lying. But what mum is not going to lie to keep her son out of prison? Let's face it. There's going to be mums all over the world that would be like, do you know what? I don't care. I don't care what my child does. I'm not letting them go to prison. Are you having a hot flush, dear?
Yes, yeah. Can you
yes, yeah. When you went like that, I saw steam come out. So there were no defensive wounds on Robert's body. This is bizarre because even if you're semi-conscious, if you feel something like a stab wound or something, you're naturally gonna, wave your arms around, even if you're a bit delirious whilst doing it. This didn't happen. Another controversial bit, they found several needle puncture marks on various parts of Robert's body. And contrary to what many podcasts that I've listened to on this and many interviews and things like that, contrary to what they all say, all of these were confirmed by medical personnel. They said he was fighting for his life. We were trying anything we could to try and, keep him alive, even though they think, 99% he was already dead.
So the needle marks were from the ambulance, from the paramedics?
Yeah, they were from the EMTs and things like that, apart from one. There was one in Robert's ankle that EMTs and medical staff said they didn't do that, but we don't really know, to be honest. I mean, there's people saying no, they weren't from the medical team, and then there's medical teams that were saying no, we did inject Robert quite a few times. No one could really account for this one on his ankle, but yeah, I'll have to leave that with you. Signs of asphyxiation were present, including petechial hemorrhages in the eyes, but this was minimal. So this was like one in each eye. And can you please make a note about the signs of asphyxiation with the petechial hemorrhages?
Done it.
because we're going to talk about other things that can cause that. But the most perplexing thing that was discovered was examiners found a lot of semen on Robert's body, mainly around his genitals and the tops of his legs. It was also found on his buttocks and inside his anal cavity. Yes. So at this point, authorities thought, well, this is going to be a closed case because we will test the DNA from this semen. And the chances are, such a short time frame, the chances are we're going to have our killer. DNA testing was done on the semen and they waited with bated breath on the DNA results coming back. Then the DNA results came back. They had a definitive answer on whose DNA that was. It was Robert's. This was his own semen that was found around his genitals, on the tops of his legs, on his buttocks, and inside his own anal cavity. Right. I know. I have done a lot of research about this, and there is a few different things, but I'm going to save that for part 2. Okay. So we'll cover all that and a lot more in part 2 next week. And I'm so sorry to leave you all with this because honestly, it's mind blowing. There's things that are going to blow your nuts.
Well, so far I've got an A4 pad full of notes.
Brilliant. Honestly, I've got pages and pages at the end of all my ramblings. I've got like 27 pages for this story. It just kept going and I'm still not finished.
Okay.
So yeah, you wait for part 2.
All right. I'm very intrigued. I'll probably re-listen to part 1 before we record part 2.
Okay. I'll do a brief.
Yeah.
A brief overall. And there's so much in part 2 as well. So don't fry your brain with part 1. But yeah. Oh, you
All
wait.
Right. Okay, I am. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, Courtney, for requesting this one.
Yeah. Thank you so much because honestly, this is the first story in a long time that I've really felt motivated to like deep dive into it. And it's just absolutely crazy. So get in touch with us, Courtney, and let us know if there's bits in that you didn't know about, because honestly I was finding new things out all the time. Yeah. All right. Join us next week for part 2 and have your minds blown.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.